So today is all about the idea that people aren't buying from you. Why they're saying, oh, this sounds great, and then they don't do anything about it. They don't go ahead and commit to it. So what we're going to do is fix some of those clarity gaps that are quietly killing your sales without you having to go and push down that price. Because that's the worst thing you want to do. Because your price is there for a reason, and we don't want to touch that. We don't want to play to the bottom. We don't want to, basically race to the bottom when it comes to price, only to find we've made ourselves be out of business. So, how do we do that? Well, I want you to first think about the responses that people will give you. And they're not really about price. They're saying, well, it sounds great when you produce some kind of proposal for them or a quote, or they might, oh, I might need to think about it first, or I'll get back to you, or I just need to run it past the missus. This isn't necessarily a price thing, but we do know that those pauses, those need to think about it first, those I'll get back to you, and things like cool and sounds great usually means it's going to be a no. Now, there's just not going to be a lot of coming back from that. We know it's going to be a no. And what it does is it leaves us feeling confused. But what happens is people are not committing because they're confused. Something is not clear to them. Now, it might be price. It might simply be price. You might be the first people they went and saw, and they saw the price and went, are you kidding? This is not what I thought it would be. Not realizing, that the world doesn't cost $20 and you can't get everything you want to get done for a couple of $100. Things cost money. The world is an expensive place. So people don't say yes when they're confused, and they'll often say no when if they're not sure it's a fit for them, or if they don't see the urgency in it. It's like it's something which they kind of do one day, but they don't really need to do it right now. I'm looking at you, insurance. That's one of those things that definitely is. Don't trust the outcome. They don't feel like they have any trust in what the outcome is going to be. And that could be something where you're producing a physical product, for example, which they haven't seen the end product. So that might be what it is. Hey, let us run a demo for this so you can see what it's going to, or a mock up to see what it's going to look. Well, they don't understand the true value of what they're doing. And these are all things that you have some power over: the alignment with what's for them, the urgency for what they need to get done, the trusting the outcome. Well, you produce the outcome, so you have some control over that. Even in the don't understanding of the value, it's you that has to present the value. We cannot assume that people see the value, even if they came to us first about what they're trying to do. They don't necessarily see the value. They don't really necessarily they see it for them, even if they came and saw us, because we don't know what the whole journey towards seeing us was. Whether it was, a referral from a friend, an ad they saw on television, or it's just that you're the only game in town and you're the one that they came and saw about it. That you don't know all that backstory. Your job is to help them feel like this decision is obvious. The obvious decision is to go ahead and do this because it is for them. There is an urgency for them to get this done. They can trust the outcome because now seeing where it's going to be, or they've seen other work you've done, and they do understand what the true value is. And true value is a bit of a hard one because everybody sees value as a very different thing. They might see it as an example, it's value for money, which we say basically, I got a great deal, I got this awesome expensive thing for not much money. But value goes beyond that. We're getting away from price and into how good does this thing match what their expectations are of transformation in the end. And we will come to that as well and explain that more. Now, most of you have known in marketing, in various forms of marketing, that if you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. And that's because we're speaking in vagaries. People who have on their websites, we help businesses grow. Well, what do you do? Oh, you're a web designer. Okay, well, just say you're a web designer. We offer quality services. Well, if you didn't, I probably wouldn't even deal with you at all. Perfect for anyone who wants better results. That's, again, so vague. What helps to get the kind of customers in who don't need that much hand holding to see what the value is more specific language. Like, we help first-time cafe owners increase weekday foot traffic. That is super, super, super specific. And that's one I stole from, excuse me, a guy who has run cafes in the past and now runs software and services and consultancy to help cafes get going and succeed. And it was really, really clear. Like, we help first-time cafe owners increase weekday foot traffic. There is an outcome there, increased weekday foot traffic. Who is it for? First-time cafe owners, not for established chains, first-time cafe owners. So that's the difference between the vague and the specific. It's a very, very clear outcome and a very, very clear person that's for the alignment and the outcome. So you can trust the outcome and the alignment's there. Now, that's just in one sentence, they've been able to clarify that rather than saying, we help cafes grow. Well, that's fine. Grow what? Grow pumpkins. It leaves too much for people to figure out for themselves. And they're not going to read deeply in your website unless they're really, really super, super dedicated. So let's get clear on, who this is for, who benefits the most from what you do, who gets the results the fastest, or whatever it is. People who are already looking, who is actively seeking this type of solution. So look at what you do, all the things that you do, the outcomes you deliver, who benefits the most from it. That's the kind of person you're talking about. Are they people who are already looking? They're a really good person to get because, well, they're probably, looking around a bit. They're all looking, they're already shopping around, right? And then you study your competitors to see what they do, how they position themselves, what their testimonials look like, what their content is. But you don't really need years of experience and a marketing degree and somebody who, I know, paying $2,000 an hour to come and tell you how to put everything together in a slide deck. You can look at this stuff. You go, well, who is it that benefits the most from what I do? Who is generally what kind of people are already looking, because they've already gone past that sort of, oh, do I really need this? Do I really want this? They're actively looking for it now. So you don't have to do that whole top of funnel thing where you're trying to educate people on what it is you do. They know what you do. They know they need it. So now they're just shopping around. And then the competitors give you some sort of idea about who you're up against. And what you'll probably find is most of the competitors are really terribly positioned. They're using those vague things. It's saying vague things. Oh, we do many things. It's like, but tell me what you do. Not, oh, we do many things. Find the patterns that emerge in there. And you'll see some outliers, some really good, strong front runners. And like I said, you don't need years of experience to do that. You're just basically re-engineering from who is the most likely, who is already looking, and who's already serving those people now. Your competitors, and that's really all that is. So then look at what the service level would be. We usually go, okay, the person I'm looking to target is of a certain age, a certain life stage, an industry, a location. But really, what drives buying decisions is emotions, or more correctly, solutions to negative emotions. What do I want to achieve? What frustrates me? What feels risky? What makes me curious? Demographics and where people live is very, very surface level. And it's like, saying, here's a great big map and throw darts at it, and hopefully you'll hit someone who needs you. Whereas if you go for the emotional need, that need to see a transformation or some kind of delivery on what it is they need to have solved, that's when you're looking at, what do they achieve? What do they want to achieve? What is the thing they want to get done? Well, that gives you the answer to who you're selling to by saying, well, we help you do this. What frustrates them? That's what they want to solve. They want to solve and resolve that frustration, that risk factor that's sitting there, and also piquing their curiosity. It was an interesting one because I added that myself because I felt like I'm often someone who responds really well to curiosity, being piqued. So if someone's saying, hey, this particular thing does this thing, and you'll never guess what else it does. And I'm like, that's like dangling a shiny object in front of me. I'll go after that one every time. So then we go, well, what is it we actually do? And what did they get from it? So we might say we're buying a house, and you're selling a house to someone and they're buying a house, and what they get is a house. But people don't buy services, they buy progress. So what they're moving away from is homelessness to having a home, insecurity to security, uncertainty to certainty, no sense of ownership to a sense of ownership. So they're changing from one thing to the other. They're progressing forward from stress and wasted time, uncertainty, or lost customers, or insecurity, or that sort of thing, towards clarity, growth, revenue, confidence. So we look at, excuse me, now I've had this cough for over a week now. What are they moving from, and what do they want to change into in order to get some kind of progress? Because that's what they're buying from you, progress towards something. So, for instance, if I was selling you this little packet of tissues that I'm holding, I'm not buying a pack of tissues. I'm buying a way to deal with all this crap that's coming out of my nose, right? I'm doing something which is socially acceptable to make me look a little less worse than what I do when I'm coughing in my workplace. I'm doing it for a feeling. I'm doing it for an emotion. I'm doing it because these ones are aloe vera infused or soft lotion infused, actually. So they don't scratch my nose and leave me all red. And that's all because, not because I don't want to feel bad, but because I don't want people to see me look like I've got a cruddy nose from blowing my nose too much. Again, it's all feelings, it's all emotions. People are buying feelings, or they're buying some kind of moving away from a feeling. If you're doing something which is a very high technical thing that you're selling it to, large companies or governments, and they're sort of not seeing what the value is, you see what is important to them, to the decision maker, what's actually important to them. Saving money, saving time, looking good to their superiors. What is the feeling they want to get out of this? Even if they're super logical people, there's some kind of feeling they want to get out of this. For them, it could be status. That what might attract them is like, well, we're the first local government in the state to use this, and we're going to be, shining bright like a diamond because nobody else is doing this. That could be what drives them. Or it could be that, I am going to come in under budget for the first time in 10 years, and I'm the new person who wants to get this done because it gives me status, the feeling of me achieving something that no one else could. So, what then is stopping people? What's stopping them from moving forward is those questions, them asking, is this for me? What if I waste my money? I've tried something like this before and it didn't work, or I just don't have the time to do it. All these objections are already there. They come with those objections. They're like automatic responses to people. So you can actually address them really early before you even start having a conversation with someone. They're called frequently asked questions on a website, or they could be, social media posts that actually specifically say this. What if I waste my money? It can be a subject of a social post, a blog. It could be a subject of a podcast. Any of those things. You answer the questions that people are already asking. From a search engine optimization point of view, this is powerful stuff because this is the sort of things that people are now typing in to things like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Claude. They're not just typing in, this kind of service in Darwin. They're saying, actually, I need to solve this problem. I've got this bit of a problem I don't have, and I don't really want to waste my money. So you won't come up if you're just saying, we do this, we do this, we do this, we do this. And if your website is full of, we do all these things, that's great for the people who are looking for those specific things. What about the people who need these questions answered? Because those objections are part of the baggage that people walk in the door with. The earlier you address them, the faster that resistance drops before the conversation begins. And a lot of people go, "Oh, but I don't really want to put that down on my website because it'll make people feel like we're not sure of ourselves." No, it shows that you are sure of yourself. If you ask that question and answer it really well, you are looked at as someone goes, okay, thank you. That's what I was worried about. And they've automatically, invisibly and silently dropped that resistance. So the people who do end up coming through for that meeting with you, for that call with you, have already progressed past that place of being scared about everything. Clarity means less friction, less speed bumps on the road, less potholes in the road. So you need to make what you do super, super obvious. What changes in that person, in that organization, in that local government, in that whoever your customer is, what changes in them after working with you? Because we know there's vague promises just make us think, well, I don't know what that means. Or that sounds like, one-stop shop and all that kind of crap that people put on local radio ads that makes absolutely no sense to anyone, especially to when we're dealing with a very high proportion in markets like I'm in, where it's a migrant population. So all those little cliches of the 1960s to 1980s that we heard growing up don't make sense to them. What's a one-stop shop? Isn't that like Kmart or something, or Coles? They don't see the same connection that we do, maybe. Real transformation and seeing examples of real transformation and having that real transformation actually brought out to them creates that confidence because it's simpler. It moves faster. It's less stressful. Everybody is really working on this way of reducing the amount of calories it takes for them to work out their problem. So if they need to spend, 600 calories trying to solve a problem in their brain, then they're not going to do that because they wanted to save those calories. It's a bit of an evolutionary task that we've got with this, where we don't want to actually spend time doing this. We want to find the people who make this easy, and it will come at a price. And most of us understand that. We understand there is a price. Occasionally, someone will go, "Oh, I didn't know it was going to be that much." And that's fine. That's your price is your price. They don't get, they don't get their boss coming up to them and saying, "Look, this week we're only going to pay you this much because we think you're very expensive." No, they get paid the same amount every week. So you too have your price set. When people are unaware, there's a bit of like a journey or a sales funnel, it's often being called as well, where people go and you will produce some kind of marketing material, some kind of way of ensuring that people are addressed at each one of these stages. So the unaware, where you're doing some gentle education, not really selling anything, you're not going into salesmanship because these people aren't even aware that they even have this problem. So you're doing a lot of very early education for them. You might be going, okay, well, this is what happens when you don't have digital marketing, or this is what happens when you rely only on digital marketing to sell what you're trying to sell. And it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I don't really need to do anything about that now, but you've got in there, and I might be following you. I might see your stuff again where it says a similar message. And one day I will become problem aware, which is the next step on the road, where I am actually aware I have this problem now. So the problem they were talking about 6 months ago, when I first came across that ad or that social media post or that conversation in a networking meeting, now I've got that problem. So what I need you to do is to highlight the problem I'm having and the possibilities to resolve them. But again, you're not saying, "Hey, give us a call today at our company. We do this." We're not going down that path. We're saying, "Hey, if you got you're the kind of person who struggles with this, there is hope for you. There is a chance to get that resolved." So you're not necessarily like, "Hey, we solve it." Let them do that work. They'll see it. They see you writing it. They see you producing it. They will know it's you that does that. It's pretty obvious, right? And then there's somebody who is on the next step, who are now solution aware. They understand the problem that they're having. They understand why your particular solution fits their problem, and they're ready to make a decision next. So this is where you're going, not just explaining what the problems and the possibilities for change and success are, or explaining why your particular solution is going to work for them, but they're now at the step where they're going, okay, there's still risk in my mind, and I need to have a really simple next step. Like, what do I do next? What's the steps I take? And that's where you get really clear about, hey, there's a no risk thing because money back guarantee, or because we'll redo it again for you, or whatever that is, or look at how many happy people we've delivered this same thing for. But that simplifying of the next step is really, really important, because the next step, we might think it's obvious, will give us a call or come into our office, but you tell them that. So I like to have on a website for a service business particularly, and even for retail businesses, this can work as well. How to I always go back to when I first had to order catering for an event I was running for 150 people. My biggest problem was that I didn't know how to do catering. How does that work? How do you order it? Where do you order it from? So I did what any smart person do: go to Google, and there's like 200 cafes in the Darwin region who will gladly do catering, but I could only call them during my lunch break because it wasn't for actually a work thing. It was for a personal thing. And so I can only call during my lunch break. Now, what's the one time you don't want to call a cafe? Is at lunch, because they tell, "Oh, no, I can't take your call right now. We're in the middle of our rush hour. Can you call us back at 3?" And I'm like, "No, I can't. Sorry." And by the time you're closed, I'm finished work, you've been closed for 3 hours. So no, you make it too hard. So what I did, I went to the one place that made it super easy, step by step. Just do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. And they made every one of those steps really simple, including emailed instruction. That was bloody Subway, of all things, Subway. So that's the kind of thing that happens, that people will lean towards what the easiest is. They're ready to pay, but they're not ready to deal with all the hoops that we want them to jump through. And what happens is, when you're a smaller business particularly, you tend to lean into this idea where you meet someone in any place, you start pitching your business to them in this vague hope that they might be the customer you're looking for. They're probably not. That's going to take a little bit of time. What we generally do is, oh, I do this and it's for these kind of people. So, hey, if you know any, pass them on, rather than, are you one of those people? Oh, we should talk. Let's go and have a meeting. Here's my business card. We go in really, really too enthusiastically and we try to sell straight away. And all we do is just leave a really bad impression with people and go, oh my God, sleazy salesman just won't leave me alone. And all those things that we hate about sales. So some immediate fixes you can put into it is going into things like your website and sharpening those headlines up. Be very clear about what it is you're doing and who it's for. If it reads like, very generic, very vague, no outcomes, and it feels like anyone could read that and apply that to them, then you're actually too unclear and you're too vague. And then get into frequently asked questions that really tackle those real hesitations. Get in there and do maybe 3 or 4 or 5 of them for every product you do, so people can adequately address these issues before they ever reach out to you. So they go, oh, okay, they've already talked about, think about, what do I do? And it's got everything. Just when everything is there, that's one less fear they have going into the conversation with you. And then make sure that there is a visible call to action that's really obvious, like call now, email now, chat now. Website chats are really good for that. If you can get a website chat going, you've got someone who can monitor it. Those things are really hot because people are hot to go right there and then, rather than, hey, send us an email, hey, book a call. I have a bit of a problem with that too, because I'm in so many things I have to do booked calls. But I do know that whoever books a call is really, really wanting to work with me. So that's an advantage for that for me. So your new sales advantage is really having a much clearer target customer with a very super sharp, very super targeted message, knowing what the objections are and getting some things in place in your materials before they have to ask you those questions. Assume they already have them and answer them straight away. And then have some kind of way that you work for people, like you create content for people, or you have some kind of marketing in place or some kind of materials in place that take them from that unaware that you exist and don't know that they need what you do to, okay, now I need what you do, now to, okay, now I understand how what you do fills my need. And then finally to that confident step. If they get the chance to go through all those 4 steps, the person that pops out at the end, way more likely to be able to connect very much with what your product is doing. That way, you're not having to persuade people and talk people into and discount people in order to get a sale. You're just aligning with where they're at. Are they the person who is not aware that they've got a problem? Have a conversation that has nothing to do with sales. Are they a person who has the problem? Tell them what the solution to that problem is. Are they a person who now has that solution, knows what to do? Then let them know what the next step is to go and do from there, and just reinforce the fact that, oh yeah, we've got some other people we did this for too, by the way. And that makes that whole selling thing so much easier to do, because you've got just simply aligning with the questions they're already asking. So silence is feedback. If people hesitate, don't lower the price. And that's the first thing we want to do, want to discount. Some people just go straight out and ask for a discount, and you're like, well, why would I discount? You're a one-time customer who will never come back to me after this because you're only doing this once in your lifetime. Why would I discount? You say, well, my price is my price based upon the best possible thing I can do that allows me to actually put food on the table. Every single one of those responses of cool and sounds great is often followed by silence, and that's data. That means that something's not hitting. The value is not aligning with what they perhaps thought they needed, or you're not somehow speaking to the problem they actually have. You're speaking in vagaries. You're being very unclear. So, ready to turn that sounds great and let's do it. That's what it is. Find out who it's for, what problem it is you solve, why it matters to solve that problem now, why it matters to them to have it solved now, and then what the transformation is going to be, what changes afterwards. You start with that clarity, the sales naturally begin to land in your lap because nobody else is speaking with that level of clarity. They just aren't. That's why this is so effective, because your competitors just aren't doing it. So if you want to continue that journey, I've got a bit of a learning guide there for you that will help you to sort of systematically work through those steps and have a look at what they actually mean, as well as read on a little bit of extra material that might be useful for you.